Here is an interesting true or false question for dot products of vectors. And the questions here are: 1. If two vectors are parallel, then their dot product is 0. True or false? If two vectors are scalar, if two vectors are scalar multiples, then they are parallel. True or false? C. If two vectors are collinear, then their dot product equals magnitude square. D. If two vectors are perpendicular, then their dot product is equal to 0. True or false? E is product of two vectors, that is u times v, is not valid. True or false? So these are the questions for you, and they're kind of simpler, right? So let's look into their solution. The first one is, if two vectors are parallel, then their dot product is 0. Well, if two vectors are parallel, the angle between them is either 0 or 180, right? In either case, cos theta is not 0, cos theta is 1. So in that case, this statement is false, right? So we are assuming the two vectors are non-zero, right, in that case. So it is false. If two vectors are scalar multiples, that means if u equals to k times v, scalar multiples, then they are parallel. That's true. If two vectors are collinear, that means, as in the previous case, then their dot product equals magnitude square. That seems to be okay, but it has one little problem. Little problem is the case 2. If they are in the same direction, let's say they are in the same direction. Collinear means they could be in the opposite direction also. So let's say that we have vectors u. Let's say these vectors are vector u, right? If they are in the same direction, we do get magnitude square. But if they are in the opposite direction, we get minus of magnitude square. Do you understand? And therefore, this statement is false. So we get minus, right? Well, you may say the vectors are scalar, the magnitudes are same, but it's a minus value, right? It is like a number line, and on a number line you have 0 here, and let's say you have 5 here and minus 5 here. These are two separate numbers. Do you see that? We are not talking about directions. We are talking about scalars. They are two separate numbers. So they have to be exactly same vectors if when we say that their magnitude square will be dot product, right? So this statement is false. If two vectors are perpendicular, then their dot product is equal to 0, of course. Cos theta is a part of dot product, right? U dot v, right? Magnitudes. And cos of 90 degrees, is 0. Therefore, this will be 0. So that's true. Product of two vectors, u times v, is not valid. Well, we know dot products and we know cross product. We know one thing. If there are two vectors, then dot product is scalar. And the cross product of two vectors is vector. But there's nothing like this. This is really invalid. So this statement is true. It's kind of very important for me to highlight that whenever we write uv, we have to write whether we're talking about dot product or cross product. Just writing them like this makes no sense. So it is for that reason that I've included it in part of true and false. Make a note of this, right? Products of two vectors, when we talk about, then it could be scalar product, it could be k times vector u, it could be, scalar, right? Scalar multiple, I should say, or dot product, which we also call scalar product, or cross product, which is yielding a vector. So these are three ways you can multiply vectors, but you just can't multiply vector with vector straight away. That's kind of important to understand. Thank you. I hope you appreciate it. Thank you.